Okay, how's everybody doing this evening? Actually, a little bit earlier in the day than when I usually make my videos, but I thought I'd get it out of the way a little bit earlier today. So today, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about buying one Bitcoin and what that can do for you. When I was a young guy, I think in about 1981, 1982, I had raised about $5,000 and I wanted to invest in the stock market. And I was a business major going to the University of Nebraska in Omaha, just a very short distance from Warren Buffett's home, his place that he lives in Omaha, where he lives today, as a matter of fact. And I did end up investing, and I think I invested in John Deere stock, Hammermill Paper Company, and a few others, of which they did okay, but they didn't do the greatest. And then I ended up taking the money out for some reason, I don't know why. But one of the companies that I had bought back in that time was Berkshire Hathaway. And oftentimes I think about if I would have taken that whole $5,000 and put it into one, it would have been, I think, 10 shares of Berkshire Hathaway at the time. At the peak of Hathaway's or Buffett stock, it'd be worth about close to $4 million without distributions or taxes. So yes, one singular event in 1982 held my entire life. I'm almost 60 years old. Would have been enough money probably to live on, or most people to live on for the rest of their lives without thinking about it again. So people talk about how, first of all, you gotta get a job, you gotta go to college, you gotta get a job, then you gotta save up for retirement, and you gotta put money in your 401k, and you gotta get your employer to match it and all this other stuff. But what if you could just do one singular thing and not worry about it ever again? That would be so much simpler than the way people approach, what's going to happen to them in 30, 40, 50 years. And I would present to you today that singular event would be buy a Bitcoin. And I think buying one Bitcoin today, held for a minimum of 10 years, will allow most people to probably not have to think about money for the rest of their lives. And I think that's kind of getting to be something talked about by quite a few people. Now, I know everybody's talking about Paul Tudor Jones, the hedge fund manager, billionaire investor, who's now saying that he's going to have allocate a little bit of money to Bitcoin, which is giving Bitcoin a little bit of credibility. And a lot of people are talking about this. Now, I remember Paul Tudor Jones from a long time ago. This guy, he's one of these commodity, used to be in the 80s, used to be a commodities trader and stuff like that. They literally would create their own market through, a small group of commodity traders. And they were literally outside, they don't have to own the commodity, they don't have to own the dollars or the currencies or whatever it was they were trading. They would literally just take a position in the market. So like Paul Tudor Jones, get up in the morning and he'd buy dollar bills. I mean, and there's a YouTube video about this if you want to watch it to confirm what I'm saying. He would literally buy dollar bills. And he'd buy like a lot of dollar bills, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of currency. And then throughout the day, he may send a little bit more into the market through another broker or through somebody else that's trading too, making it look like there's going to be a run on dollars. And then when just about the time people start wondering who it is that's buying these dollars, and they think, well, maybe there's something going on, they jump in and then they buy the dollars, sending the price higher. And as soon as he gets enough people in, then he sells and creates himself a position to sell. Well, this was going on for a number of years, and they were just a little group of people, actually banks mainly, that had hired people just to trade among themselves in this little marketplace around commodities and currencies, and they could trade anything they wanted to trade. And they could literally make, incredible, enormous amounts of money without doing anything but just playing a little cat and mouse games about who is it that's buying, who's it that's selling, how much are they buying, how much are they selling, and usually had nothing to do with the news, had nothing to do with weather, had nothing to do with any other markets. It was just this little clique of people that was doing this. That's how Paul Tudor Jones made all of his money, by just playing these little games in the market outside, kind of almost like little play games outside of the real world, which was the world that I was in, which was actually producing the commodity as a farmer at one time. So, the real world that I was in, he was outside that world and just creating these little games back and forth and doing this. So, how much better would it be for somebody like him to have traded Bitcoin over these commodities? First of all, you got to realize what it is you want to. You have to trade. If you want to trade, you have to have a foreign market. You can't trade with yourself. You have to have other people in the market. So we're getting to the point with Bitcoin that I don't know exactly how many people own Bitcoin. I've heard the figure before, but it's been around for 10 years. It's held by a lot of people, and it's literally held around the world, the globe. It's globalized. So isn't that many people hold it today? Bitcoin has value, as we've seen, because of the fact that people are willing to trade and hold it. Bitcoin is portable, as we know, because it's a digital. You can move it around. So if you want to sell it and somebody else wants to buy it, there's a quick way to get it to somebody else, and that's just through your digital wallet. So it's very portable. It's very easy to buy. It's very easy to sell. There's a liquid market for it. And the other thing about Bitcoin, which makes it better than any other kind of investment, is that it is a digital currency, but it is incredibly scarce. And how scarce, we don't even know how scarce Bitcoin is, because everybody talks about the total amount available that will ever be mined, and that's 21 million tokens, 21 million Bitcoin. But there's so many Bitcoin that have been lost, and we don't even know how many Bitcoin have been lost. Plus the fact that I think there's a million or 100,000 Bitcoin owned by Satoshi. I think it's $1 billion right now, that probably will never be touched. So there's a small percentage of Bitcoin out there. And when you get these people like this guy, this Paul Tudor Jones, trading the Bitcoin, you know that you're looking for some incredible swings. I'm thinking that Bitcoin in 10 years, actually I'm thinking Bitcoin's probably going to be a few $100,000 in the next 2 years. And I think Max Keiser, he's looking at Bitcoin to be 400,000 in the next 2 years. I'm looking at Bitcoin to be $100,000 to $200,000 in the next couple of years, or next year or something like that. In the next 10 years, God, who knows how many millions of dollars of one single Bitcoin could be worth. But the Bitcoin, the thing about Bitcoin is it's scarce. It's incredibly scarce. And if these guys start trading Bitcoin, which they will, they're going to start trading it. And that's, everybody says, well, you always talk about trading, and what if somebody shorts Bitcoin and they drive the price down? Well, that's great. I'd love to have them do that, because they're contributing to the market. Because unlike other commodities, which they didn't even have any and that's like the same way with Bitcoin. We're not actually trading Bitcoin. They're just trading the Bitcoin. And that's another thing about Bitcoin, is there's a fundamental, actual material thing here, a private key that belongs to a Bitcoin that you can track, that has a ledger on the internet, the blockchain, that you could track, and this is an actual physical thing. I mean, that physical thing is a little bit of a relative term, but it's an actual thing. Unlike a commodities market where it's completely removed from the actual commodity. I mean, farmers can be buying and selling corn and have no corn, but the markets can be going down because the market is unrelated to the actual commodity. With Bitcoin, there's actually something there, a mining pool. I mean, and the thing about Bitcoin, it's getting incredibly valuable is because there's so many miners, not only individual companies, but now countries that are going to start mining Bitcoin. And now with the new reward system, they're going to be putting more and more money into their mining operations. So that's all infrastructure that backs up the value of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is incredibly rare, and it's incredibly tradable. It's a digital currency. It's an incredible store of wealth. And if it starts being traded by the guys like this guy that's, trillionaire, billionaire, whatever he is, guy, Paul Tudor Jones, you could see swings in the Bitcoin price. Not only will Bitcoin go up $100,000 and $200,000 in go be worth that, it could go up or down that much. As these guys start trading it, it could have massive swings. Right now Bitcoin is an $8,000 Bitcoin. I'm saying in the future you could see $100,000 to $200,000 swings in one day on a single Bitcoin, and I'm saying that's not going to be very far away. Especially if these guys all start trading it. A lot of these big brokerages, or these big money funds, or these people that have lots of, and of course, Paul Tudor Jones is giving them the green light by saying, I'm going to do it. So he's asking for compadres to come into the game with him. Hey, I'm going to start trading. Why don't we come play, boys? That's basically what he's doing. He's asking him to come in and step into the arena. He's challenging him. He's going, I'm going to buy a few Bitcoin. Why don't you get in a few Bitcoin? These guys start trading back and forth with Bitcoin. They're going to drive the underlying Bitcoin price up out of this into the stratosphere. Even though he's kind of playing it soft right now, I like the way he says. He goes, well, I don't, I'm not really that into it, but I've recognized the fact that it's been around for 10 years. It does have some value. So I think I'm going to start buying a little bit, maybe 1% or 2% of my holdings are going to be in Bitcoin. I don't buy it at all. What I'm basically thinking he's doing is he's setting this thing up to start playing, and he's hoping that some other boys come aboard, and boys and girls come aboard and start playing with him, because they're going to be running this thing up to an astronomical, unbelievable numbers. And I can tell by him talking about it today or the other day that he doesn't really understand the underlying technology behind it. But all he sees is it's something to trade, just like a dice game on the curb. Now dice games on the internet. It's just another dice game for this guy. But they will, by trading it, run up the price enormously. So you can really literally see $400,000, $500,000 Bitcoin and swings of $100,000 to $200,000 a day in Bitcoin's price, and that's on one single investment of $8,000 at today's value. And that's what I think you can see in the very near future. So yeah, can you give it up and not have to worry about money anymore by buying one single Bitcoin? Absolutely. I think that's very, very, very. I think in fact, I'd be shocked if it didn't happen that way. I'd be shocked if in the next year or two you don't see some incredible movement in Bitcoin. So that's basically my talk on Bitcoin. Now, how does that relate to our project in EOS? If you see Bitcoin going up in market caps, it's skyrocketing, and of course, it's going to. Believe me, it's going to go up, and it's going to happen, because there's just such a small supply of Bitcoin out there compared to what the demand is, and who's interested in it right now. Like I say, there's countries interested in using Bitcoin as their currency, or because it's so you can take it down to the smallest infinite amount. So it's very easy to use as trading back and forth, and people start using it on their phones or start exchanging back and forth. This is incredibly seductive to use something this easy around the world as a Bitcoin to trade. So you're going to see this thing take off like nothing you've ever seen before, and it will spill over into the altcoin market. Ethereum, EOS, of course our challenge token, it will benefit from the fact that Bitcoin is going to see these incredible appreciations. And of course, this is what happened last time. After the halving, Bitcoin went up quite a bit, and of course then the money all went off into other alternative coins. And that's what you're going to see again this time. And if you want to see the huge run-ups, it'll be in the altcoins, because those will actually have some functionality beyond just trading and beyond just being a store of wealth. They will actually have some functionality to it, like our token does, being a geolocation token. It's traded right now on a very popular exchange, Nudex, and as the Bitcoin market increases and improves and gets better and better and better, money starts flowing to the altcoins. People will look for projects that have working applications behind them, that have some utility to them. It's something that people want to use, and something people will use for a number of ways. We don't even have any idea yet what it is. We just know that we just have it working, and it is working, and it's a real application that runs on Google Play and the Android store. So anyway, yes, buy one Bitcoin today. You won't be sorry. I appreciate you watching.